If you ever get a random FaceTime call, don't answer it. I learned that too late. At first, I thought it was just a glitch. The screen lit up in the dark, the ringtone sharp enough to jolt me out of that lazy, half-dreamy state you get when you've been scrolling too long. Midnight, maybe later. I don't remember the exact time because my focus was locked on the name that appeared across the top of my phone. No caller ID. Normally, I would have ignored it. Hell, I should have ignored it. But something about seeing FaceTime instead of a regular call made my curiosity outweigh my common sense. Who would FaceTime without revealing their number? Some drunk friend? A prank? I thought I'd laugh and hang up. So, like an idiot, I swiped to accept. The screen went black for a second, the camera icon spinning. Then it connected, and for a moment I just saw static. Not bad reception static, the kind you'd expect from an old TV. White noise streaks of gray and black lines flickering across the screen. It made no sense. FaceTime doesn't do that. And then, in between the static, a face flickered. Not a full face, just pieces of one. A pale eye floating in darkness, then gone. A cracked smile glitching at the edge of the frame. It was like the call was struggling to decide what it wanted me to see. The audio came next, low breathing, wet, uneven, like the person on the other end had just finished running, or like they were standing way too close to the microphone. "Hello," I whispered, feeling stupid even as the words slipped out. The breathing stopped. For 2 seconds, there was silence, and I thought maybe the connection had failed. Then, a voice, not distorted by lag or static, but warped in a way that felt intentional. Low, stretched, like someone dragging metal across the bottom of a glass bottle. "I like your posters." I froze. My posters. My eyes darted to the wall behind me, covered in a college of bands, horror movies, and one old, faded video game promo. The phone was angled toward my face. I wasn't even pointing it at the wall. "Who is this?" I asked, louder this time. The static surged, the image shifting. For a split second, I saw more than a face. I saw a room. My room. The view was from behind me, just over my shoulder. I blinked and it was gone, back to static and blackness. I felt my chest tighten, air caught in my throat. My rational brain tried to fight it. Maybe the front camera glitched, maybe it was lag bouncing back my own feed. But the angle wasn't possible. It was like someone was standing in my room with another phone. The voice came again, softer now, as if mocking me. "You shouldn't have answered." I slammed the call off, heart pounding, palms sweaty against the slick glass of my phone. The silence in my room was deafening, broken only by the low hum of my fan. I checked the locks on my door. I stared at my window, waiting for a shadow to move. Nothing. Just the ordinary quiet of a late night. For a second, I convinced myself I'd imagined it, that it was some twisted filter, or a hacker pulling a prank. I almost laughed, shaky and nervous, ready to chalk it up to exhaustion. And then the phone buzzed again. Incoming FaceTime, no caller ID. The screen glowed, illuminating the room in pale blue light. My hands shook as I held the phone, staring at the accept button. This wasn't random. They already knew who I was. I didn't answer that second time. But I should have thrown the phone out right then. I should have smashed it to pieces. Because the truth is, that call wasn't just a glitch or a prank. It wasn't random. It was the start of something I can't escape, no matter how badly I want to. To explain how I got here, I need to go back to when it started. Before everything went wrong, my life was boring in the most ordinary, forgettable way. Nights blurred together, the same sprawled on my bed, thumbs scrolling TikTok, until my brain went numb. The glow of the screen staining my face like some kind of artificial nightlight. You know the drill. Half my feed was dumb pranks, the other half, relatable, clips about procrastination, which felt like the app was mocking me directly. I had homework I wasn't doing, dishes I wasn't washing, but instead I was watching a guy try to teach his parrot to say slurs. I wasn't exactly a social butterfly either. My phone buzzed occasionally, group chats with friends sending memes back and forth. Mostly stuff like, "Bro, If I die and you make a meme about it, please use a good photo. That kind of dark humor you only share at 1 a.m. It was comfortable, lazy, safe. The kind of life you don't think twice about because nothing ever actually happens. And that's what makes this harder to talk about, because you can pinpoint the exact moment when ordinary slipped into something else, and you wish you could rewind to before. I'd been getting a few weird texts that week, spam messages, or so I thought, random numbers saying things like, "We've been trying to reach you," or "Don't ignore us." Standard scam, bot stuff, nothing special. I'd laugh it off, screenshot one to send to a friend with, "Yeah, this Nigerian prince really wants my car warranty." There was even a string of calls from numbers that didn't make sense. Too many digits or area codes that didn't exist. I shrugged them off like everyone does. Who hasn't gotten spam calls, right? But looking back, maybe that was the start. Maybe those were the first knocks on the door before it opened all the way. At the time, though, it was just another night. Me, TikTok, and the creeping sense that I'd wasted another evening doing nothing. I remember yawning, tossing the phone onto my pillow, and staring up at the ceiling like maybe I'd magically fall asleep without trying. That's when the screen lit up. I didn't even notice it right away, just the glow spilling across my room. But when I rolled over, there it was, missed FaceTime call. No caller ID. I frowned at the screen, my brain still sluggish with half sleep. Who FaceTimes at nearly midnight without showing their number? Probably a glitch. Probably nothing. I told myself that. I really did. But even then, even before I knew what it meant, my chest tightened in this subtle, instinctive way, like some part of me understood it wasn't random at all. And that was the first moment. Tiny, easy to ignore, that should have warned me to turn the phone off and walk away. The first time I actually answered, I told myself it was just curiosity. That was the excuse anyway. It happened a couple of nights after that initial missed call. I was half asleep again, brain fried from hours of doom scrolling, when my phone buzzed against my pillow. I expected a text from a friend, maybe a meme. But when I flipped the screen over, I saw it again, incoming FaceTime, no caller ID. This time, though the little thumbnail preview didn't look empty, it was black, yes, but there was movement, shadows rippling, like someone pacing in a dark room. Every rational part of me screamed not to answer. But curiosity has a way of smothering reason, especially when you're young, tired, and just arrogant enough to think you're untouchable. So I swiped to connect. The screen flickered, stuttered, and then went dark. For a second I thought the call had dropped. Then a sound came through, low, heavy breathing, uneven and close, like the microphone was pressed against someone's lips. "Hello." My voice came out smaller than I meant it to, barely above a whisper. Nothing, just the breathing. I shifted on the bed, the glow of the screen lighting my face in pale blue. Who is this? The silence stretched, broken only by that same wet exhale. And then, beneath it, a faint scrape, like someone dragging fingernails along wood. "Okay, not funny," I muttered, my throat dry. I was seconds away from hanging up when the voice came. It wasn't loud, it wasn't even clear, but I swear I heard it, my name, just my name, spoken slowly, as if testing how it felt on their tongue. My stomach dropped, a cold rush shooting through my veins. I hadn't given my name, I hadn't said it. Whoever this was, they already knew me. The screen glitched, static tearing across the image. For a blink, I saw something, not a face, but an outline, a silhouette of someone leaning close, far too close to the camera. Then it cut off. Call ended. I sat there in the dark, staring at the reflection of my own stunned face in the dead phone screen. The logical explanation tried to claw its way forward. A prank. A hacked call. One of my friends screwing with me. I clung to that thought like it was a lifeline. I snapped a screenshot of the call log. No caller ID, FaceTime, 1047, and dropped it into the group chat. "Me yo, whiff is this? Just got a FaceTime from no ed t lol, probably some spam bot, bro Sams. Hacker man trying to sell you crypto, me nah." Bro, they said my namantail mowu. Stop your overthinking, Sam. You watch too many horror vids. Relax, easy for them to laugh. They weren't the ones who heard it. I tried to shake it off, but sleep was impossible after that. I left the phone face down on my desk, the silence of the room pressing on my ears like cotton. Every creak in the house felt magnified, every shadow too long. The next morning, I checked the log again. That call wasn't saved under a number at all, just a blank space, like it had never happened. I wanted to believe it was a glitch. I really did. But that night, another call came through. And the night after. Every time, it was the same distorted static, that sickly breathing, sometimes the faint scrape of fingernails. Once, I swore I heard laughter, muffled, like someone trying to choke it back. I didn't always answer. Sometimes I just let it ring, watching the screen glow like an open mouth waiting to swallow me whole. But ignoring it didn't help. The calls kept coming, and with each one, they got bolder. At first, I convinced myself it was just a phase, some freakish glitch that would vanish if I ignored it. But it didn't. The calls started coming more often, always at times when I was alone, when my guard was down, when the rest of the world was asleep. One night, it buzzed at 20:17 a.m. I let it ring until the sound drilled into my skull. Another at 400 in the morning, jolting me out of the kind of heavy sleep where your heart races like you've been thrown from a dream. Sometimes 2 or 3 in a row, like whoever was behind it was growing impatient. I tried to joke about it with my friends, to downplay the edge in my voice. Me, still getting those freaky calls, Sam, oh no, the hacker wants your soul. Ty, bro, it's prob some kid using spoof apps. Me. Then why the hell do they know my name, Sam? Cuz you post too much online, Lmao. Their laughter was easy, detached. And I laughed too, or at least I tried, but the sound came out hollow. Because what I wasn't telling them was what I actually saw. I didn't tell them about the first time the video feed didn't show static. It showed my living room. I was in bed when I answered without thinking, the reflex of someone too tired to resist curiosity anymore. The screen was dark, grainy, and then, clear as day, the angle shifted, panning slowly across my living room couch. I knew it was mine from the crooked picture frame on the wall. I hadn't been in that room in hours. I ended the call instantly, my skin crawling, and ran to check the room. Empty. Just silence and shadows. But my phone buzzed again the moment I stepped inside, like they were mocking me, watching me move. I stopped answering after that. But it didn't help. The missed call notifications piled up like a taunt, a reminder that ignoring them didn't make them go away. My routine collapsed. I stopped sleeping properly. I double-checked every lock, shoved a chair under my doorknob, taped the little slider over my laptop camera. My friends would send me dumb memes in the group chat while I sat in the dark, watching the glow of my phone pulse every few hours with yet another FaceTime attempt. That contrast killed me. Their world was still light, funny, normal. Mine was shrinking into this bubble of paranoia, where even the sound of my own ringtone made my chest seize up. The worst part. I didn't tell you yet. I kept it to myself, partly because I knew they wouldn't believe me. Partly because even saying it out loud felt dangerous. But one of the calls, I swear, I saw someone standing in the corner of my bedroom. The feed was glitching, the usual static and blackness, when the frame brightened just enough. And there, at the edge of the screen, was the outline of a figure. Not moving, not speaking, just there. Like a shadow that didn't belong. I spun around so fast I nearly fell off the bed. Of course, the room was empty. But when I looked back at the screen, the figure was gone too. Try sleeping after that. I started leaving every light on, pacing the room, my nerves fraying thinner each night. I'd stand at the window and stare out into the street, half hoping to catch someone lurking, half dreading I actually would. The only real break I got was when exhaustion finally forced me to crash. And even then, my dreams twisted into nightmares. Distorted faces pressed against glass, the buzz of a phone vibrating against my skull, a voice whispering my name from somewhere just out of sight. I wanted to throw the phone away. Smash it, burn it, bury it, anything. But some sick, compulsive part of me couldn't, because every time it buzzed, a deeper fear wrapped itself around me, that if I ignored it long enough, they'd stop calling and start coming. That's the part my friends never understood. They thought it was all a joke, some harmless digital harassment. But it wasn't. I could feel the weight of it growing heavier each night, as if the calls weren't leading up to something, but drawing something closer. And then, one night, it happened. I was half asleep, phone still clutched in my hand like some pathetic talisman, when it buzzed again. My thumb twitched, and before I even processed it, I'd swiped to answer. The static was there, yes, but so was the voice, clearer than ever before. The voice didn't come right away. For the first few seconds, it was the usual static, a low hiss like the sound of wind pushing through an empty tunnel. I was about to hang up when I heard it, softer than before, distorted but unmistakably human. "I like your posters." My blood froze. The words hit me with the weight of something impossible. I'd heard them once before, during the very first call. But this time they weren't vague, they weren't imagined. The voice was clearer, closer, low and rasping, like someone whispering directly into my ear. "You've got good taste," it added, dragging out each syllable. My eyes darted to the wall. The same college of banned posters, horror movies, and random junk I'd taped up years ago. I wasn't even pointing the phone in that direction. The camera was squarely on my face. "Who the hell is this?" My voice cracked halfway through. The line went quiet for a second, broken only by that wet breathing. Then, the voice said something that made my stomach cave in on itself. "You don't remember me, do you?" I sat up straighter, clutching the phone tighter. My heart pounded in my throat. "I don't know who you are. How did you?" "Don't lie." It interrupted, almost sing-song. "We've called others before you. Most don't answer twice." The phrasing stuck like a splinter. "We." Not I. I swallowed hard, trying to sound braver than I felt. "If this is some sick joke." "Joke," the voice repeated, like it was tasting the word. Then it gave this guttural chuckle, like a laugh played backward through a broken speaker. "You think this is a joke?" The screen flickered, glitching between blackness and something else. For half a second, I swore I saw my own room, my own bed, from the corner near the closet. The angle was wrong, tilted, like someone crouched there holding another phone. "You're in here with me," I whispered without meaning to. "Yes." That single word nearly made me throw the phone across the room. I leapt off the bed, scanning the corners of my room, pulling the closet door wide open. Empty. Of course it was empty. But when I looked back at the phone, the voice said, almost teasing, "Wrong corner." My vision tunneled. My breathing came in short, sharp bursts. Whoever this was, they weren't just watching. They were interacting, responding in real time, with knowledge they shouldn't have. I scrambled for logic, for something to anchor me. Maybe it was a hacked camera feed. Maybe some elaborate AR filter. Anything but the alternative. But then the voice leaned in closer, like it was inches from the mic. "Your mom's name is Herodox Tidboy." The air left my lungs. I hadn't said her name. Not once. Not during this call. Not during any call. How do you know that?" I stammered. "You told me." It said almost gently. "You just don't remember." That broke me. My thumb hovered over the end button, trembling. "Wait," the voice hissed, sharper now. "You don't hang up. Not until we're done." I hung up anyway. For a moment, blessed silence. My own ragged breathing filled the room, the fan humming in the background. I clutched the phone like a weapon, praying that would be it. Then the screen lit up. Not a call this time. Messages. Dozens of them. Numbers I'd never seen before, flooding in one after another. "Unknown, why did you hang up?" "Unknown, we weren't finished." "Unknown, answer again." "Unknown, don't make us wait." Each text came from a different number, but they all carried the same voice in my head. That same warped, rasping voice I couldn't scrub out of my ears. I dropped the phone onto the bed, staring at it like it might sprout legs. The vibrations rattled the mattress as the texts kept pouring in. And then, in the middle of the flood, one message froze me in place, unknown. Look outside. When I finally worked up the nerve to check outside, nothing was there. No shadows, no strangers lurking on the street, just the same quiet row of houses under orange streetlight glow. My reflection in the glass looked like a corpse, pale, sleepless, hollow-eyed. I wanted to believe it was all in my head, that stress and paranoia had me unraveling. But the text wouldn't stop. My phone buzzed until the battery gave out, and even then I swore I could hear the phantom vibration against the desk, like it was still demanding my attention. That's when I decided to look deeper. I don't know what I expected. Maybe nothing. Maybe some half-baked, scary story that made me feel stupid for even searching. But the second I typed FaceTime no caller ID won't stop ringing into Google, I fell into a rabbit hole I couldn't crawl back out of. At first, just normal tech forums. People complaining about spam FaceTime calls, warnings about spoofed numbers, standard cybersecurity stuff. I almost laughed, the tiniest flicker of relief bubbling up, until I found a Reddit thread buried in a forgotten corner of R's unresolved mysteries. The title was simple, The Call. It had maybe 20 comments, most deleted, the rest cryptic. One person described answering a FaceTime from no caller ID and hearing their own name whispered back. Another claimed they saw their bedroom reflected on the screen, even though their camera was pointing away. And then the kicker: if you answer 3 times, you don't stop getting them ever. The replies to that were gone. Entire accounts deleted, leaving behind "hey removed" placeholders like tombstones. I should have clicked away, closed my laptop, gone outside, touched some grass. But I didn't. I couldn't. Because every part of me needed to know if I was really losing it, or if this was bigger than me. I found more breadcrumbs. An old YouTube upload, buried with under 1,000 views, grainy audio of someone recording their phone. The caller's voice crackled through. "You let us in when you answer. Don't say your name. Don't say your name. Don't." The video cut out mid-sentence. The account hadn't uploaded since. Then there were the blogs, little WordPress sites with posts that read more like confessions. One guy swore he was followed for weeks after answering. He wrote about strangers staring at him in grocery stores, black cars idling outside his apartment, his phone buzzing in the dead of night. His final entry just said, "They're at my door." No updates after that. Everywhere I looked, it was the same pattern: calls, whispers, warnings, and every story ended abruptly, like the person had been cut off before they could finish. I told myself it was just creepypasta, internet urban legend fuel. That's what I wanted it to be. But the deeper I went, the less it felt like a story, and more like scattered police tape at the edge of something awful. And then I found the rules. They weren't written like official commandments, just fragments pieced together from threads and half-deleted posts. But they repeated enough that I started to believe them. Never answer more than 3 times. Never speak your full name during the call. Don't let them finish a sentence if they start with, "Do you remember?" If they tell you to look outside, don't. Reading them made my skin crawl, because I realized I'd already broken at least 2. I'd answered multiple times. I'd heard, "Do you remember me?" And, like an idiot, I'd responded. And still, I kept scrolling. One post in particular stuck with me. It was short, almost like the person had typed it in a rush. "Don't share screenshots. Don't record it. They don't like proof." If you're reading this, it means you already picked up. And if you picked up, they already know where you are. I stared at those words for a long time, my hand trembling over the mouse. The paranoia in my chest bloomed into full panic. Every creak of my house sounded like footsteps. Every car outside was suddenly watching me. I shouldn't even be showing you this, but you need to know what I found. Because if you ever get that call, if your phone ever lights up with no caller ID on FaceTime, you'll want to know the rules too. But here's the thing about rules. When you're tired, when you're scared, when the buzz of your phone cuts through the silence for the 10th time in a single night, rules stop feeling real. And that's how I broke another one. Because the next time the screen lit up, I didn't think. I didn't hesitate. My thumb swiped before my brain caught up, and I answered again, for the third time. I was already on edge when it happened. 2 nights of barely any sleep, curtains drawn tight, my phone face down on the nightstand like that would somehow stop it from buzzing again. But when the vibration rattled across the wood at 3:17 a.m., I didn't even think. My hand moved before I could stop it. The glow lit up my room like a flare, and I saw those words burned into my retinas again. No caller ID. FaceTime. I should have let it ring. I should have remembered the rules. But curiosity is a sick, sharp thing, and fear twists it into compulsion. My thumb dragged across the screen. Connected. And for the first time the video was clear. No black screen. No distorted pixels. A figure stood there, framed in sickly gray light. I couldn't make out their face, like it was blurred on purpose, smeared out of reality itself. But the outline of their body was sharp, broad shoulders, slight tilt of the head studying me. I froze. Then the voice came. Not the glitchy static I'd heard before, but something disturbingly casual, like a neighbor saying hi in the driveway. I told you not to pick up again. The sound of my own breathing nearly drowned them out. I fumbled with the phone, ready to hang up, but the screen flickered. For a split second, the image shifted. Not their face, not their room. It was my street, my actual street. I recognized the cracked pavement under the lamppost, the crooked mailbox at the end of my driveway. The camera moved slightly, as if the caller tilted their phone. And then the figure was back on screen, tilting their head in the same direction. I whispered, "What do you want?" Before I could stop myself, the voice laughed. Low, mechanical, like it was run through layers of broken speakers. "I like your posters." My stomach lurched. My eyes darted to the wall behind me. Yeah, they were right. A faded horror movie poster, peeling at the edges. There was no way they could see that. My phone's camera was pointed at my face. "You shouldn't stay up so late," they added. "It makes it easy for us." I wanted to throw the phone across the room, smash it into pieces. But my body wouldn't move. My hands were locked tight, knuckles white around the edges of the device. The screen flickered again. Another feed. This time my front porch, the familiar welcome mat, the warped wooden boards I'd been meaning to fix. My heart thundered against my ribs as the camera zoomed in, shakily, deliberately, like someone standing just beyond the steps. Then back to the figure, head tilted, silent now. I whispered, "You're outside." The distortion warped the sound into something unholy, but I heard the chuckle clearly. Not yet. Something inside me snapped. I lunged for the lamp, flooding the room with light, as if that would banish them. But the screen didn't change. They didn't flinch. The feed glitched again, faster this time. Figure, porch, figure, street, porch.
My own window. My own window.
I staggered back, the phone nearly slipping from my hand. The angle showed the outline of blinds. My blinds, drawn tight, but faint light bled through the cracks. My light, the one I had just turned on. They were showing me myself. "You always close the blinds," the voice said softly. "You think that keeps you safe." I nearly screamed, the sound sticking in my throat like barbed wire. I fumbled at the side button, desperate to end the call, but it didn't respond. The red end circle just flickered uselessly, like the phone was mocking me. "We don't need permission anymore," the voice added. 3 times is enough. And then silence. No laughter, no taunts. Just the faint hum of static filling every corner of my skull. The screen stabilized one last time, and what I saw nearly stopped my heart. A live feed of me, sitting on the floor of my bedroom, phone clutched to my ear, my own terrified face staring back at me from the device, delayed by maybe a second, like a grotesque mirror. I dropped the phone. The thud against the carpet echoed like a gunshot. But the call didn't end. From the floor, the screen still glowed. My reflection on one half, the blurred figure on the other, watching, waiting. And then the lights went out. Every bulb in my room, the hallway, the hum of the fridge downstairs, even the streetlight outside that always buzzed at night, gone. The world plunged into black, but the call stayed. The screen was the only light left, its glow bathing my shaking hands as I crawled toward it. The figure leaned closer, their blurred face nearly pressing against the camera, as though they were trying to crawl through. And the last thing I heard before the call glitched into silence was a whisper, almost tender. "Now you'll see us better." The blackout should have been a relief. Darkness can hide a lot, they say, but it wasn't relief. It was another layer, a deeper, heavier silence pressed against my ears, punctuated only by the distant hum of the city. Except there was something else, something faint, deliberate moving. At first, I thought it was outside. Footsteps maybe, soft and careful, circling the house. Then a scrape at the window. My pulse hammered against my ribs like a drum of panic. Every rational thought screamed it was just branches, the wind, the floorboards settling. Every irrational one told me the truth, they were here. I grabbed a chair and shoved it under the doorknob, fumbling with the locks. The phone buzzed in my hand, screen lighting up like a heartbeat in the darkness. No caller ID. FaceTime. Again. I stared at it, frozen. My thumb hovered over the end button, but something inside me couldn't hang up. It felt like admitting defeat. The noises got closer. First the porch, then the hallway outside my bedroom. A low scraping along the hardwood, then silence. I exhaled, almost laughing through the panic, thinking maybe it had been nothing. Relief, fleeting and cruel, washed over me, until the next sound inside the house. A whisper, almost too soft to hear. A shuffling step in the hall. My own floorboards creaked in reply, or maybe it wasn't my floorboards. My hands shook as I gripped the phone tighter, pressing it like a shield against my chest. I thought they'd broken in. I whispered to no one, voice barely audible. But what I saw next was worse. Because then the phone buzzed again, FaceTime ringing despite the power cut. My room, my house, should have been dead. The device shouldn't have worked. And yet, there it was. The screen glowed, illuminating my hands, my trembling face. I forced myself to look at the window. That's when my stomach dropped to my knees. There, pressed against the glass from the outside, was a shape. Tall, motionless, blurred like the screen, but real enough that my reflection twisted in terror. I could see nothing distinct, only a dark silhouette with limbs too long, head cocked in that same unnatural tilt. I stumbled back, choking on a sharp inhale. My phone buzzed again, FaceTime ringing. Same caller ID. The figure didn't move, didn't vanish, it just waited. I barricaded the door as best I could, piling furniture in front of it, shoving the lamp behind the chair to give me some kind of defense. But even then, the noises didn't stop. The scrape returned, now from the walls, the ceiling, the floor, everywhere at once. I crawled to the bed, clutching the phone like it was the only thing keeping the world tethered to reality. The screen flickered, showing the figure again, but this time closer. Inside the room, at the corner I had left empty, near the closet. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Every instinct screamed to run, to scream, to break something. But the room felt impossibly small, the darkness suffocating, as if it had grown around me. The door rattled, the windows rattled, and through it all, the FaceTime screen glowed, buzzing insistently. No static this time, no distortion, just that figure, staring, waiting. I swallowed, trembling, peering once more through the blinds at the impossibility outside. What I saw next made me freeze, so hard I couldn't even blink. A second shape, identical, mirroring the first, and behind it, the faint outline of more shapes crawling, shifting, blending into the blackness beyond the streetlight. They weren't just outside. They were everywhere, filling the darkness with silent intent. I backed away from the window, pressing the phone to my chest, eyes darting around the room. My fingers shook uncontrollably. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears, loud and fragile, as if it might betray me. And through it all, the phone buzzed again. FaceTime, no caller ID, the same screen, the same figure, now closer than before. I couldn't tell what was worse, the power out, the silence, or the fact that this call, this nightmare, had invaded my home so completely that even the walls felt like they were watching. That's when it hit me. The truth I'd been too terrified to face. This wasn't a person. Not entirely. Not in any way that made sense. I stared at the FaceTime screen, the figure frozen, almost patiently waiting. It wasn't after money. It wasn't a prank. It didn't want a reaction. It wanted me. All of me. I scrolled frantically through the forums I'd found, piecing together snippets from deleted accounts, cryptic YouTube videos, and whispered Reddit confessions. Each described the same pattern: answering the call, seeing the room, being watched, and then vanishing in some way that left no evidence. It wasn't the voice, it wasn't the figure, it was the call itself. A living, spreading presence, something that infected the signal, riding the FaceTime connection like a parasite. It learned, adapted, hunted, and once it knew you, "You're marked?" I whispered, voice cracking. Because that's what it was. Not for death in the usual sense, not for pain or money, but for acknowledgement, for presence. It needed witnesses. It needed someone who could see it, feel it, recognize it, so it could exist. I realize now why the rules existed: never answer more than 3 times, never say your name aloud, never let it see your world. Every broken rule was a thread tying me closer to it. Every missed call that became answered was an invitation. It wasn't human. It wasn't alive in any way we understand. It was something else. Something older than FaceTime, older than technology itself. Something that had adapted, evolved, and found its way into screens, into signals, into the small, glowing rectangles we trust every day. And worst of all, I understood why it didn't end with me. Once it had you, it could reach beyond your room, beyond your street, beyond your perception. It collected witnesses, lives. I stared at the phone, the figure leaning just slightly closer, head tilting in that unnatural way. I could feel its intent radiating through the screen, pressing into my chest, into my mind. If you get the call, you're already marked, and there's no hanging up that truly frees you. I don't even know why I'm recording this. Maybe it's proof. Maybe it's a warning. I can't sleep. I can't think straight, and every shadow in my room feels like it's moving just a little too fast. If your phone rings after this video, don't answer it. Don't swipe. Don't even look. I know it sounds crazy, but if you do, it might already know you're there. It's not a joke. It's not a prank. It's something else. Something that can see through the screen, that can find you through the glow of your own devices. I've posted this here because I need someone to see it. If anyone else has had this happen, comment below. I need to know I'm not the only one. I need to know I'm not going insane. My phone is on my desk. The battery's low, the room is dark, and yet I keep hearing it. That FaceTime ringtone. Quiet at first, then louder, closer. My thumb hovers over the screen, shaking, my nails digging into the edge. I don't want to answer it. I can't answer it. But the sound, it's hypnotic, insistent, like it's calling me by name. And I think, just for a second, the phone buzzed again. And then,